territory. And surely that is, from you can see Polaris has demonstrated that they're looking to be a company that's global and grab more business. 5 to 8% growth in their power sports market annually. And that's without a lot of advertising. 2 billion acquisitions in new markets. And I think what says it more than anything is their company attitude. They are relentless and making their powerful portfolio even stronger. So closing up, I wanted to again reiterate 3 things I think we should look at, and that was market segments. They're strong and they have diversity. The market position, they are global leaders, and with market posture, they are on the offensive. This all leads to a company that I think is primed for growth and income. At this point, we'll pass the presentation over to my colleague, Jose.
Thank you, Mr. Pence. Hello, everybody. Innovation has been the driving force behind Polaris since the company was established in a machine shop in Minnesota in 1954. Some of the company's milestones include the first motorcycle with a 6-speed overdrive transmission, producing the first side-by-side ATV, and also the first snowmobile. When we're talking about innovation, actually, let me speak about this one. Polaris actually introduced about 20 new vehicles every year. As you can see here, this is the model year 2015 and early 2016 products. These are the 21 vehicles that they are introducing to the market. About 9 motorcycles and about 400 new accessories. When we're talking about innovation, we also need to talk about engineering, manufacturing, research and development, and also acquisitions and partnerships. When we're talking about innovation, Polaris is based on lean technology. What that means is that they want to optimize the full product's life cycle. From the first idea, beginning with the technology process and engineer, to the last part of the operations part, which is the end of the life cycle. They have applications engineer in every cycle of the products. They also have a process called FMAA, which means failure modes and effect analysis, which guarantee them to verify and to make sure that every part that goes into their vehicles is up to par. They also have a suppliers collaboration. They bring their suppliers to their technology centers so they can actually be close and work close together with them. This is a map of their global manufacturing operations around the world. They have the first location in Minnesota, but you can also see the locations in Europe and also Latin America. Polaris has spent a lot of money in research and development. In 2003, they spent about 4% of the revenue of research and development, as well in 2014 when they spent 4.5%, about $148 million in that. In 2014, they ranked 75% of Vitality Index. This meaning that the Vitality Index is the return that they get from the research and development. If we look at their competitors like AutoCAD, they rank about the 50 to 60%. These are the major acquisitions and partnerships from Polaris. For example, if we see the first one on top, which is the Omega, the niche market in select countries with no automotive driver license required. We also have ProArmor, which is the leading aftermarket developer and manufacturer of accessories for performance ORV or off-the-road vehicles. And one partnership they have is Acre, which is right on the bottom. They are the proven expertise in lead engineer and EV vehicle manufacturing expertise. And now I'm going to pass this to Kevin. Actually, I still have one more slide. And in conclusion, their engineer is based on their the product and development efforts. There's been a lot of money in research and development, and the acquisition is something that they're growing every year, and they're expected to be about $5 billion in global enterprise by 2019. And now I'm going to pass it to Kevin, who is going to talk about their financials.
Thank you, Jose. So I'm going to talk about the financials for Polaris, and we're going to start with the net income and revenue. And Polaris, as you have seen, has grown so fast that they decided to next year that they're going to come out with their own watch. So Polaris, we talked about revenue growth greater than $4.5 billion. 2015 guidance is up towards actually approaching $5 billion, with 2015 guidance on net income approaching $500 million, and year-over-year growth greater than 17% in net income and 20% in revenue. So this is a look at Polaris operating cash flow and free cash flow. And the one thing you want to take away from this slide is the operating cash flow exceeding net income, and that is the result of depreciation add back. The other thing you can see from this slide is free cash flow takes a dip in 2013 as a result of the stock repurchase from Fuji Heavy Industries that was financed by cash as well as credit. In the liquidity ratios, one thing a little bit weak about Polaris is the current and quick ratios being, current ratio quite a bit less than 2 and quick ratio dropping. Mostly, again, those are the result of the stock repurchase and increase in net assets, which is represented by the equity multiplier, which you can see peaked in 2013 above 3 times. So as the equity multiplier increased, you can see as well from that stock repurchase and their expansion and growth that they, again, financed by debt as well as some cash. So you see with that a drop in asset value, but an increase in debt. So this is the slide on assets, liabilities, and owner's equity totals. And so with the weakness in current and quick ratios, you can still see that total assets now in 2014 are starting to diverge from total liabilities. Total stockholders' equity also was very close to net income in 2013, which makes that equity multiplier and also have a very close value to for return on equity. The DuPont analysis represents the same thing, with equity multiplier peaking in 2013 as a result of assets to equity. Asset turnover also pretty well remained flat, but you can see the return on equity with a nice figure above return on equity above 70%, and profit margin maintaining around 10% with return on assets with a steady growth through 2014. If we look at Polaris earnings and dividends, steady growth of net income is paralleled with earnings per share growth above $6, and dividends also with steady growth. Earnings in 2014 were $6.62 for each dollar in invested capital, with dividends at $1.92, and 2015 guidance is above $2. So before I turn it over to Christy, the one thing to summarize about Polaris earnings, that if their 2020 goal with revenue of $8 billion, that if their earnings multiple stays about the same, that stock price should actually approach about $210, where their current value is about 142. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Christy.
Thank you, Kevin. So I'm here to talk a little bit about how Polaris compares to the industry. So first we'll talk about growth. So you can see on this slide for quarter over quarter and year to date for revenue and net income, Polaris is exceeding the industry averages from a percentage perspective. For example, revenue quarter over quarter has exceeded approximately 18%, while the industry is around 8%. From a profitability standpoint, from a percentage, you can see Polaris is just slightly behind the industry average at this point. Polaris's gross margin is around 29%, while the industry average is approaching 35%. Net profit margin is a little bit closer, with Polaris at approximately 10%, with the industry at around 12%. Moving on towards the financial health, this will give you a little bit of insight, and you can see a little bit more about what Kevin was talking about, how the 2013 expansion and stock repurchase affected Polaris and how they now compare against the industry. I will point out on the current ratio, Polaris right now is approximately 1.29% for 2014. In 2012, Polaris was at 1.61 for their current ratio, which the industry average today is 1.6. In 2013, they did decline down to about 1.16 with that expansion in stock repurchase. However, you can see that they are currently up on the trend, moving up towards the 1.29 range for 2014. Management effectiveness, you can see for their return on equity, return on assets, and return on capital, they do exceed the industry average. Calling out specifically return on equity, currently about 65% for Polaris, while the industry average is just over 30%. Now we're going to move into a little bit of SWOT analysis for Polaris. We want to look at what their strengths are, their weaknesses, the opportunities, and their threats. To call out some of their strengths, we'll look at the fact that they are, as William pointed out, their name is a brand recognition. They are known globally, they're an international presence, and they have strong R&D and innovation. For some weaknesses, let's call out specifically their motorcycle competition. They are number 3 from what William showed you, trying to compete up against Harley-Davidson, who is a strong presence in the motorcycle industry. They are faced with some environmental factors, so looking at the markets for their snowmobiles, if they're trying to sell in an area that is hit by some global warming, they may not sell as many snowmobiles as they could. Going over to some other opportunities, they are continuing to expand their global presence, as you saw from Cherie's slides, moving over from Europe into more of that Africa and other areas of the world. Now we'll look at some of their threats. Looking at some of the safety regulations that they have to fulfill, as well as potentials for any lawsuits over safety, or any of the reliance on the oil prices. As oil prices go up and gas prices go up, their market may not be as apt to use their products or go out and buy their products. Based on everything that we have shown you today, from Natasha's information that she's provided on the background and history, to Cherie's information on sales, where you've seen the continued growth of the sales and projected growth for 2015 expected, as well as the marketing presence that they have, that William has talked about, the R&D and the innovation that Jose spoke about, and how they're continuously looking at and trying to develop new products, and the strong financial growth that Kevin brought to your attention, looking at the revenue